Welcome back to the show. I'd like to welcome now one of our favorites, Just the News news editor, Joe Weber, to fill us in on everything you need to know for this week and moving forward. Joe, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. So what's going on this morning? I mean, beyond, the Facebook oversight decision, which we know about, what else is happening?
Well, I think this is one of the most interesting things to come out of overnight, more or less. The House Minority Whip, Steve Scalise, overnight has essentially backed Elise Stefanik for the Liz Cheney #3 leadership post. Now, this story about her as being the likely candidate started to circulate yesterday afternoon around the Hill and around Washington, but no one was really going to come out and say that House leadership, Scalise, the #2 person, or Kevin McCarthy was behind her. And this thing sort of built steam. Some good reporting by Punchbowl News, even suggesting that McCarthy, as you know, went on Fox yesterday and essentially said it was basically over, but that he had even cleared the field. This guy named Jim Banks, congressman who was in charge of the leadership committee on the conference policies. He was interested in it. And another woman from Illinois, I forget the congresswoman's name.
Yes, no, I remember reading about that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So, I mean, what do you make of Scalise outwardly backing Stefanik? I mean, honestly, of the three top Republicans in House leadership, I think people typically think of McCarthy and Cheney as the feistier ones, as the more publicly controversial and sometimes rhetorically fun ones. And Scalise is kind of on the back burner there. He's very solid, but this is kind of an unprecedented move from him and, from leadership in general. I mean, who knew that his divide with Cheney was so deep that he would do this publicly?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's Jackie Walorski. Finally remembered that. But anyway, to go on, I think that they basically just had to come out and make a statement. They couldn't just sort of play this sort of backroom game and, back working, politicking and saying, she's maybe not going to have a vote. She's going to have a vote. That vote is likely expected when the House reconvenes next week after this recess this week. And I think that they just had to come out and make a public statement. They just had to put it on the line where things were rather than they had to end all the speculation. I think the tipping point, as we talked about before, no one really had a problem with Liz Cheney being among those who voted to impeach Trump. That was fine. She had her say. McCarthy backed her. They had a vote. She overwhelmingly, won the support. But the continuing fighting just became a terrible distraction, particularly in Orlando when they had this retreat last week, and it became this issue about, whether she's going to back Nancy Pelosi, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's this sort of 9/11 commission style commission on the January 6th riot, and then the big lies back and forth. No sooner than Trump made that statement, Cheney, boy, she was out in response to that within minutes. So she's just, the fight goes on, and it's becoming a very big distraction. Like Scalise said in the statement that was made by his spokesperson, that the real focus is on winning 2020 and 2022, winning the House back, and this is just becoming a huge distraction. So I think Scalise obviously has his sight on the bigger goal, and has to do what he has to do.
I agree with that. I mean, I also think that, this has certainly been the Republican headline this week. It's from everything we've been hearing, this vote will take place in very short order. So I don't know how long of a drawn out battle this will be. And I certainly, don't think it has actually distracted most Americans from their kitchen table discussions of things like taxes and getting their kids back in school. But this is a little bit of infighting that's going to need to be sorted out. I mean, this is what I'm sort of asking everyone, Joe. What do you think Cheney's game plan is here? I mean, she, it seems like if she's looking at her numbers, if she's looking at responses to her behavior within her own caucus, then of course from her constituents, like, this doesn't seem like a very smart strategy. What do you think her goal here is?
I'm with you. I made the comment earlier this week on David Brody's show. She really just seems like rebel without a cause, right? I mean, she knows this is not going to get her anywhere. And the only thing one can speculate is that she has, like everyone else, placed a bet on, where Donald Trump will be in 2024. And she's going to run for president, and she's going to be the anti-Trump vote. And that's where I think she's placing her bet. Right now, that doesn't seem to be a very good position to be in, considering she certainly won't win Wyoming. As you know, they only have one representative there, so it's a statewide race. even if she wouldn't say run for senator or anything like that. But right now, I think that that's a long shot that she's going to win that, or anybody will. But this appears to be where she's placing her bet, and this appears to be her strategy in the lane that she thinks she can run in, or her path to victory in 2024. How about you? I mean, do you see it any other way?
I mean, I'm that's why I'm asking. It's incredibly opaque to me at this moment. You got to wonder who her advisors are and sort of what her end run game here is. But I mean, moving on from Cheney, just briefly, Kevin McCarthy is facing a little bit of his own issue right now. I mean, the Cheney situation has been a good distraction, but Tucker Carlson broke on Monday night that he has been renting a room from Frank Luntz, who is, in addition to being a renowned Trump critic, is actually a DC lobbyist. And so this has some implications in terms of ethics, in terms of, DC sliminess, even beyond just the basic kind of inside the Beltway track that everyone expects to listen to. Yesterday, Steve Bannon, following this story breaking, said that McCarthy's seat is now in play and his, leadership position is in play. And this is a guy who's done a lot to claw to the top of the Republican caucus. And, I think Good Money has the bet that he's going to try to become Speaker of the House. Has he shot himself in the foot here? Is this just a bridge too far for people who continue to want to drain the swamp?
I think that to a large extent, the conservative base has always been a little bit wary of Kevin McCarthy, never really quite sure where his true, allegiance sort of lies. Maybe this is their opportunity to do that. I don't see them trying to make any power play right now, considering, again, it all goes back to the Liz Cheney thing, where you don't really want to rock the boat. He has a good relationship with President Trump. This is where at least the House feels it needs to be far, I think, more than the Senate, Republican Senate, that is. And I wouldn't expect them to rock the boat anytime soon. Now, if they do win the majority and a vote comes up, as it does for the speakership, he could run into some headwinds. He had to bail out on that vote several years ago when John Boehner stepped aside and went to Paul Ryan. So it's never sure. It won't be a sure thing for him. That's for sure.
That's very true. Joe, just very briefly before we have to go, what are the top 3 headlines of the day, do you think? What do people need to know?
Well, I think where we're going to go with the Stefanik vote. Obviously, we're looking for a statement from President Trump about what he feels about the Facebook decision. And I think that there's probably going to be some sort of movement here in the Arizona and Maricopa County recount in Arizona that people are keeping an eye on. And I think they're probably the big 3 stories today.
Very, very true. Well, Joe, thanks so much for dropping in today. We always love hearing from you. You've got your hand right on the pulse of everything we need to know.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon. Coming up next, we'll keep bringing you more top headlines. Today is just one of the newsiest Wednesdays I can recall in a while, so there's lots more to be broken down. That's coming up right after the break. You're watching Just the News AM, so stick around.
Real America's Voice presents America Shines with Aubrey Shines.
We'll be diving into the most controversial, cultural, and political topics of the day that you won't find on mainstream media. Trust me, we don't shy away from anything. You won't want to miss it.
Don't miss America Shines, Saturdays at 1 p.m. Eastern.